Hello students. In this session, we are mapping India through landforms the way UPSC expects you to think about them. Not as random facts, but as a system. We'll move from the desert in the northwest to the logic behind India's two very different coastlines, and then to the island groups that complete India's physical geography. By the end, you should be able to place any location on India's map and instantly infer what kind of landform processes operate there. Let's begin with the big picture of India's morphological journey. There are three anchors here. First, the arid northwest, a region shaped by dryness and wind action. Second, the coastal contrast, where the western coast behaves like a submerged margin, while the eastern coast behaves like an emergent one. Third, the blue frontier, where India is not just a mainland story, but also a story of islands, coral atolls in Lakshadweep, and tectonic peaks in Andaman and Nicobar. Here's what serious aspirants do differently. They don't memorize regions. They memorize the process that dominates each region. Now let's zoom into the Great Indian Desert, also called Marusthali. Its location is clearly northwest of the Aravalli Hills. And that matters because the Aravalis act like a geographic line, after which aridity and wind dominance become obvious. The topography is undulating, and the dunes you must remember are longitudinal dunes and barchans. Barchans are those crescent-shaped dunes formed by wind, with horns pointing in the direction of wind movement and a steep slip face on the leeward side. Climatically, it's arid, with less than 50 millimeters annual rainfall. Geologically, note the line that many ignore. This is an extension of the peninsular plateau. Don't casually treat the Thar as completely disconnected from India's older hard rock base. Now comes a concept UPSC loves, because it tests whether you understand drainage properly. The endorheic basin. An endorheic basin is an inland drainage system where streams don't reach the sea. They either disappear into the ground or terminate in inland lakes or salt flats. The Luni is the prime example here, and it's also called an ephemeral river. Ephemeral means it does not flow year-round. It flows mainly after rainfall events, which is exactly what you expect in an arid region. Here's a trap you need to be aware of. Don't assume every Indian river ultimately reaches the sea. In arid zones, internal drainage is the correct mental model. Now shift to the coastline, because India's coast is not one uniform strip. India's total coastline is 7,516.6 kilometers. But what matters more is how it is divided based on location and active geomorphologic processes. This is where most students lose marks. They remember east and west coast names, but they don't remember why the coasts behave differently. Keep the process in your head first, the names second. Let's start with the western coastal plains, described as the submerged world. Submerged coastline basically means the sea has advanced into the land margin, creating deeper waters close to the coast. That is why the coastal belt is narrow. And that is why natural ports and harbors develop more easily here. Another key point is about rivers. They are fast-flowing and they do not form deltas. Instead, they tend to form estuaries. Here's a trap you need to be aware of. If a question links West Coast rivers with big deltas, it is almost always wrong. Now break the western coast into its regional divisions, because UPSC likes to test these as mapping questions. In Gujarat, you have Kutch and Kathiawar. Then comes Konkan, covering Maharashtra and Goa, then Kanara in Karnataka, and Malabar in Kerala. And one feature you must attach to Malabar is scales or backwaters. These are vital for fishing, tourism, and inland navigation. This is the kind of small line that becomes a 2-mark map-based question in mains or a location feature pair in prelims. Now shift to the eastern coastal plains, the emergent world. Emergent coast means the land has effectively advanced relative to the sea margin, so you get broad plains and shallower coastal waters. Because the rivers flow eastward and carry heavy sediment loads, deltas are well developed here. And because the waters are shallow and deltaic deposition dominates, you get fewer natural harbors. Remember the rivers set on this coast? Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna, and Kaveri. They are not just rivers, they are delta builders in the UPSC logic. Now put west and east side by side, because this comparison is missed by a large majority of aspirants. Western coast is submerged and deeper, so it stays narrow. Eastern coast is emergent and shallow, so it spreads out into broad plains. Western rivers are fast-flowing and form estuaries. Eastern rivers build large deltas. Western coast has many natural ports. Eastern coast has fewer natural ports. Here's a trap you need to be aware of. Don't answer port advantage based on coastline length. Answer based on depth and coastal configuration. Now move from the mainland to the blue frontier, India's island groups. India has a total of around 572 islands and islets, and they are split into two geographically and geologically distinct groups. Lakshadweep lies in the Arabian Sea between 8 degrees north and 12 degrees north. Andaman and Nicobar lie in the Bay of Bengal zone between 6 degrees north and 14 degrees north. A topper's approach is simple. Lakshadweep equals coral origin. Andaman Nicobar equals tectonic origin. Now focus on Andaman and Nicobar as tectonic giants. A key separator here is the 10-degree channel, which separates the Andaman group from the Nicobar group. These islands are essentially elevated submarine mountains, meaning they are part of undersea relief that rises above sea level. And you must remember Barren Island because it is highlighted for a reason. It is the only active volcano in India. Here's a trap you need to be aware of. If a question asks about Indian volcanoes, Barren Island is not optional knowledge. Now connect physical setting to life conditions. The climate signal here is convectional rainfall, meaning heated air rises, cools, condenses, and produces rainfall, typical of warm and humid regions. Vegetation is equatorial in character, dense and evergreen, and the coastline features coral deposits and beaches, which tells you the coastal environment supports reef-related deposition and sandy coastal features. This is exactly how you build integrated answers in mains. Climate, vegetation, and coastal geomorphology in one flow. Now end with Lakshadweep, called the coral paradise, and the defining word here is origin. It is built entirely of coral deposits, specifically atolls. Atolls are ring-shaped coral formations typically surrounding a lagoon, formed over time as corals grow upward around subsiding volcanic bases. Location-wise, it is 280 to 480 kilometers off the Kerala coast. The largest island mentioned is Minicoy, with 453 square kilometers. And a unique feature is storm beaches with unconsolidated pebbles. Unconsolidated means loose, not cemented into solid rock. So these beaches are shaped and rearranged strongly by storm waves. Hold this as a clean mental split. Andaman Nicobar is tectonic and volcanic linked. Lakshadweep is coral and atoll linked, and you are exam ready.